boy. You're such a good boy. Hi guys. Today I'm going to be talking about my postpartum fitness journey. So specifically what my recovery was like in regards to getting back to workouts, what I did for workouts, a bit about what I ate. I will start by going back to when I was pregnant. I really had no expectations for what my postpartum fitness journey would look like. I knew it was gonna be hard. I will always stand by this. Like, you cannot begin to understand postpartum until you go through it. But I will say, being in the fitness industry for so long, and I've followed so many of my friends, colleagues that have gotten pregnant, had kids, had multiple kids, and are like still kicking ass. I never felt like, oh, once I have a baby, it's over. Absolutely not. That was the last thought in my mind. With that being said, maybe it was out there and I just did not have the awareness or the attention to this detail to notice. But I feel like I didn't see people posting very much about the struggles. So I do feel like maybe I had somewhat unrealistic expectations of what it would be like. As I mentioned on my first video about just my postpartum experience in general, I had a C-section, unplanned C-section after 15 hours of labor, 3 hours of pushing. She was in my pelvis, ready to come out, but she wasn't. So did the C-section. It definitely prolonged, I feel like, not just my physical recovery, but especially my mental and emotional recovery. And that absolutely carried over to my fitness journey, getting back into things that way. And I will also say something that some of you may not know is that it is just my personality type to like push against expectations. And like, I don't know if that's the right word. I'll just say this, considering I am a personal trainer and I'm in the public eye, I have never wanted to feel pressured to do anything with my body, especially postpartum, just because I have eyeballs on me and I'm a personal trainer. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's more it, is that I made like a conscious decision. I don't care if it's gonna take me a lot longer than people would expect for me being a personal trainer. I'm gonna do what is right for my body and what is right for my baby. So this is not gonna be one of those stories that's like, I'm a personal trainer and I bounce back in 3 months. And I also don't want that to like sound negative to anyone who did get back to things right away. Every woman's journey is different, but that was not mine. It did take me, I would say, a good year to even feel like myself. With all that being said, I'll start now with like my actual postpartum timeline. From birth to 6 weeks, I didn't do anything more than walking. And even from weeks 0 to 3, I did nothing. I was truly in bed, and maybe in hindsight, that's something that I would do differently for the next time if I do end up doing a C-section. When that time comes, I will be more proactive about getting up and getting out of bed. It just was so painful, and I have heard now that the more you move, the better you feel and the quicker your recovery. I didn't know that at the time, so I was practically bedridden. So I didn't even go for a walk outside for 3 weeks. Weeks 3 to 6, I did a little bit of walking, but I can't even say it was like a consistent, regular thing. We were truly struggling in every possible way with new parenthood. Again, if you don't know, this was August 2020, so it was also like prime COVID time. At week 6 is when I had my OB appointment and I did receive clearance to exercise, I guess, which is like so crazy to me because I was in no condition, no state to resume my normal exercise. And I know that they're not saying, okay, go wild. They're just saying, okay, you can ease back into it. I still was not ready for that, but I did start pelvic floor physical therapy at week 6. And one tip that I have for anyone that may be pregnant or have this coming up, I scheduled my pelvic floor PT appointment in advance. I think I scheduled it at like week 4, so 2 weeks in advance. If there's anything you take away from this video, it is to please see a pelvic floor physical therapist. I've talked about it on Instagram before and people are like, oh, I'm 10 months postpartum, 2 years postpartum, 10 years postpartum and I'm still having issues. Is it too late for me? It is never too late. This is something that like I have a gripe with in regards to our healthcare system. This should be standard care. Like it should be, again, a much bigger and different conversation. Unfortunately, it's not accessible to everyone. Not all insurance even covers it. So my insurance didn't cover it. I paid out of pocket. I recognize that it's not that easy, but it is so incredibly important. I look at it as an investment literally in myself, my body, and my health. So even if it costs, I do think that it is more than worth it. Also, fun fact, even men can benefit from pelvic floor physical therapy. And of course, women who have never even had babies. So yay, pelvic floor PT. So from week 6 to 12, I was in PT once a week and she was checking me for diastasis recti. And really for me, because I had a C-section, it was a lot of scar mobilization to prevent scar tissue buildup and sensitivity in that area. I have like no pain, almost no sensitivity, so I'm very happy with the recovery of my scar. In regards to diastasis recti, I did have, she said, a 2-finger wide gap, like when she first saw me, and by like my 2nd or 3rd appointment, it was gone. And I do think that that is because I'm so in tune with my core and diaphragm breathing and just like knowing how to engage my inner core muscles that I was able to heal it on my own, like with the help of my pelvic floor PT and that manual therapy. I do want to just point out though that I have friends in the fitness industry that were never able to close their gap. For some women, anatomically, it's not just a matter of knowing your core and going to pelvic floor PT. So just to put that out there, that there are some more severe cases. So after week 12, once I was done with my pelvic floor PT, I went on to just starting my own workouts. I still was wanting to really ease into things. So I did 2 things. One is I created Restore Your Core, which is a postpartum core program that was done in collaboration with a pelvic floor physical therapist, which is in the on-demand section of the FitBody app. It is geared towards post C-section recovery and core, but it really is applicable to all delivery types. It really, even if someone hasn't even had a baby, it's really amazing just because it goes over the fundamentals of core strength. So I did that program as like a continuing of like regaining and rebuilding my core strength. And then I did tone on beginner level, which is in my app. Beginner level, weeks 1 through 24 is all low impact moves, so no jumping moves. I really followed tone on beginner level for, I would say, at least 6 months. And I did not even go back to a gym. I actually went through my camera roll and I was like, I need to find my first post-workout selfie in a gym. May 2021, I was 9 months postpartum until I went back physically to a gym. And this is in large part due to COVID. But I will say, I started working out 2 days a week in the beginning, and then I slowly ramped it up to 3 days a week. And I really stayed at 3 days a week for several months. Like my pre-baby workout schedule was like 6 days a week. Never, I don't want to say I never skipped a day because that's never been my vibe. I value rest days. I have no problem skipping the gym if I need to, but it was just like such a part of my lifestyle that like I was so consistent. Post-baby, it was just a whole nother struggle of sleep and all the stress that comes along with new parenthood and life and juggling everything and work. And I just was not in a mental place to be able to do more than 3 days a week. But honestly, 3 days is amazing. There's still some times that I'm so busy even right now that I do 3 days, and that's great. Not to knock on it, like 3 days is nothing. 3 days is amazing. And then I will say when the tides turned, when like there was really a huge shift in my postpartum fitness journey, my results, everything, was when I stopped breastfeeding. It took 2 months for there to be like I would say, significant change. I don't want to say it was so drastic just in those 2 months. I was making progress throughout like my first year, but I kind of hit a point where it was like plateaued, so to speak. And then within 2 months of stopping breastfeeding, it was like a significant difference from there. So let's talk for a minute about breastfeeding and in regards to fitness and results. So I feel like we always heard, so many of us women growing up, that like, oh, you breastfeed and like all the weight just falls off. And you know, for some women that is the case, but it is not for everyone, and it was not for me. And if you don't know about my breastfeeding story, I was stuck breastfeeding and exclusively pumping until she was 14 months old. She refused formula. We tried several times. And I also was not an oversupplier. I don't want to say I was an undersupplier. I think I was producing just enough. The idea of losing my supply when that was 100% what she was reliant on, I could not risk not eating enough calories and that happening. So I was eating at least at maintenance, if not in a surplus. And that's why I didn't lose that weight until I was done breastfeeding, because once I was done breastfeeding, I did go into an intentional deficit. And I do want to say, any woman that does decide that it is what's right for her to not breastfeed and do formula and like get right back on fitness, and that's important to her, like every single woman's journey is her own and is just as valuable and important. So I don't want any of this to be like, you know, I did what's right for my baby and have that imply that other moms aren't, because that's absolutely not the case. When I finally weaned, which was October 2021, I hit the ground running with my workouts because I didn't have that fear anymore of like, I need to maintain my supply. So I like went all out. I was still doing pretty much my same strength workouts, but maybe like taking it up a notch a bit more. And I did add in cardio and I did go into a deficit. I was super on it, I would say for like 3 months. It was amazing. And I was going to the gym. I was doing sculpt for the most part, but you know, here and there I had to work out at home. So then I would do tone, and those are only 30-minute workouts. So that's always been such a great help in keeping me like in somewhat of a consistent routine, because the workouts didn't take that long. But then Aurora hit, I don't know if it was a sleep regression or what. I don't want to say I fell off track, but I wasn't as consistent for a bit. And then I went back into a time period where I was super consistent, and that has been the flow, I would say, ever since. It's been like 1 to 2 months where I'm really focused on it, and then it's 1 to 2 months where there's like sickness hitting the house, like Aurora gets sick and then we get sick, or sleep stuff is going on. So it's definitely been a journey this last year. It's been, I would say, about a year since I weaned, and I've like been really back to it. The best thing that has kept me going all the way through is that no matter what time period we were in, if it was a great one or a not so great one with sleep and stuff, is that I just did my best, and that looked different in each phase. Sometimes it was no workouts a week, and I had to be okay with that and just accept that, because that is the time period that we were in survival mode. And other times, getting out of survival mode, trying to get back to some normalcy. It was 2 workouts a week for a bit as I eased into going back to 3 and 4 and 5 workouts a week is the most that I've been able to manage. Now I will talk a bit more about food and what I did with my eating. From newborn time through that first year, actually 14 months when I was breastfeeding, I did always have a focus on protein, because that also helps your supply and just in general helps with everything. So I always aimed to get 1 gram of protein per pound that I weigh. That is the general guideline for how much protein you would want if you are someone that does regularly work out. And in my case, I was wanting to maintain my muscle. So even if I wasn't consistently working out, I was still eating that amount to maintain muscle, which is just as important. But I was not tracking my food. I didn't really feel like I needed to, because I was just eating, like I said, as much as I could. The only time I really track is when I am in time periods of being in an intentional calorie deficit, which I did go into October 2021. And then truly, guys, I got to a point where I was like, I feel pretty good about just intuitively eating, always tracking my protein, not like every last gram, but like having a good idea in general ballpark. This last year, I did have those 3 months of being really focused on caloric deficit, you know, leaning out and this and that. But after that, I was like, I feel good with my body. I feel good with where I'm at. Could I lose more weight? Sure. Do I have more body fat? Am I at my like pre-baby body fat percentage? No, and that's okay. And I decided to just eat what I felt like I needed to support my workouts. And some have asked what my macro breakdown was. And for me, protein is always 30%. That is where I start with my macros. Is first, it is protein, 30%. And then the rest is kind of like evenly distributed between fats and carbs. Usually ends up at about 40% carbs and 30% fats. Since I wasn't tracking exactly, that could waver a bit. And I just have to say, for anyone that is on this journey of like postpartum and getting back into the swing of things, just to be patient with yourself. It is worth it. It is worth it to fight for taking care of yourself and making that self-care a priority, but you also have to be flexible with everything else that you have being thrown at you right now. Just do your best. Sometimes that does require a bit of tough love and kicking yourself in the butt and getting up and doing it even if you don't want to. But other times that means just giving yourself another rest day. How I always look at it is just doing your best, and each day that best is going to look different, and you have to be okay with whatever the best is in that moment. So, all right, thank you guys so much for joining, being here and supporting. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll chat with you guys next time. Bye. You wanna say bye, rigatoni? Come here. You wanna say bye, rigatoni? Can you lay down? Oh, that's a nice paw. Okay. All right, bye guys.